My attitude around my creative work has shifted recently, and it's shifted based on a realization of what God really wants from me out of my creative work. And so far, really, the number one thing that he wants that sticks out to me is to trust him. When it comes to these recordings, when it comes, especially I think to my writing and my philosophy, I've been driven by a desire for proof and clarity. Proof and clarity. There's been a part of me that has been really invested in the idea of strong arguments for my philosophical worldview and for what I'm trying to tell people about. That clarity, those rigorous arguments, the desire to prove has really come out of this historical background where I wanted people to understand me. I wanted people to understand what I had gone through. I wanted people to recognize and agree with me about how I saw the world. The way I went about this was to try to make rigorous arguments, try to pin down people with reason and with logic and with evidence. Because either they would have to, if my arguments were good enough, either they would have to agree with me or else I could dismiss them as being irrational. There are a lot of things in my philosophical point of view that I found to be so essential and so important for people to recognize. And I felt like I had this responsibility to prove it, to convince people of it, and to force them to recognize the truth about what I was saying or the reality of the problems I was pointing out. And I believed that if people didn't understand or they couldn't see or they didn't accept what I was telling them, that this was on the one hand a problem with me because I wasn't making the right arguments. I wasn't being clear enough. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't articulate enough. I wasn't presenting it the right way or putting the right arguments. So it was either the burden was either on me or I had to conclude that the people around me were irrational or otherwise evil, that they weren't really interested in seeing the horrors around them or trying to solve them for whatever personal reason. I've wanted so much to prove what I see to people. I've wanted so much to find some way to convince them of the things that I understand or the things that I see, to find some way to corner them and to force them to accept it intellectually, which is pretty ironic given that my philosophy is a philosophy of non-coercion, a philosophy of voluntarism. It felt like for such a long time, the burden of waking the world up to the evil around us and providing them with a solution was something that rested heavily on my shoulders and was my responsibility because I could see it, because it had affected me, and because it continued to affect people in the world. And I wanted to save the world, or at least help it as much as I could through what I had come to recognize about the world. So it was a self-imposed burden. It was a self-imposed responsibility, and one that was many times crushing, one that I was motivated to continue with only because I don't think I could have lived with myself if I didn't. I don't think I could have lived with myself if I knew an important truth. If it turned out that I knew something that was really important for everybody to hear, and I didn't share it, and I didn't convince them of it, and I didn't find a way to convince them of it, how could I live with myself? I didn't at least try, if I didn't at least do everything that I could to get people to understand. And then Jesus came into my life, and so much intellectually and creatively has changed in me because he came into my life. And for the most part, it's been slow going. It's been creeping into my life. It's been creeping into my writing. It's been creeping into my podcast practice. It's been creeping into the philosophy I have dedicated so much of my life to develop and to convince people of, and I've struggled with, because of course I've always struggled with the tension between convincing people and just leaving people to their own devices. But Jesus has transformed so much of my attitude towards it for the better. In the first place, he hasn't asked me to give it up. He hasn't said to me, don't write, don't record, don't philosophize, don't talk with people about big ideas, don't think about big ideas. He hasn't told me once in any way to retreat from what I've been pursuing my whole life and from the ideas I've been cultivating for my whole life, though he has changed how I look at the whole project. He has relieved me of the responsibility of saving the world, of improving the world, that he has helped me to recognize that God is in charge of the world. God is in charge of its improvement. God is in charge of making heaven on earth. And God is responsible for redemption and salvation and transforming the evil of the world into something that's beautiful and good and meaningful. But at the same time as he has asserted his control, he has relieved me of my responsibility, he hasn't asked me to step away from what I'm doing. He is asking me to participate in it with him. He is saying, you are a part of my plan to help the world, and I want you to work with me, but I want you to follow me. I want you to let me lead you, and not to go off on your own, and not to try to do everything on your own, to do everything by yourself, but just to follow me and follow where I'm leading you. And he continues to call me in my writing. He continues to call me in my philosophy. He continues to call me in my podcast practice and recordings. He's more recently called me into street preaching and evangelism. And so that was a big relief, recognizing that I'm not alone, that I know that the world, no matter what I do, is going to be transformed at the end of the day for good, but that God is not asking me to step aside. God is asking me to participate in it, to do it with him. So that's a big relief, because it's not on me to convince people. And the second thing that he's really transformed in me, and I think much more recently, is just the idea of letting go of control over the work, letting go of the desperate need to convince, desperate need to, and not getting rid of proof, and not getting rid of the use of reason, and not even getting rid of the use of persuasion, but letting go of the desperateness of it, letting go of the need to try to plug every hole and to make every argument crystal clear and make every sentence powerfully persuasive. He's showing me that I don't need to have control over it, and I don't need it to be perfect, and I don't need it to fit whatever preconceptual philosophical direction I've come up with or that I feel I need to be attached to. He's helping to recognize that the only thing I need for my writing, my philosophy, my recordings to be good is to follow him, is to follow him, is to allow all of these things and myself to be an instrument of his expression, knowing that he will make out of the things that I am doing something good, something meaningful, something that will touch the people around me, that will help. And I've got this profound sense of calm around my writing, around my life, because of this revelation. And a profound sense of calm because all I have to do is show up and God will lead me. All I have to do is write and God will give me what I need to write. All I need to do is show up and record and God will give me what I need to say. That my writing will be what he has meant it to be. That my recordings will be what God has meant them to be. And that because God is good, God will make good out of all my imperfections. God will make good out of all of my unclarity. God will make good out of all my needless complexity. God will make good out of all of my drive to prove and to convince. And it's just good to put myself aside and let him lead, to write and to know that it's going to find its mark, to write and to know that it's going to help the people it's meant to help, and that it's all I really want. All I've ever really wanted with all the things I've done creatively is for it to help somebody. And I've thought for such a long time that to help somebody meant to prove something to them, that to help somebody meant to convince them or to corner them intellectually. And sometimes it is helpful, and sometimes it's not. But the things that I do don't have to be conditioned and confined by that presupposition. I can write and I can be free in my writing. I can philosophize and be free in my philosophizing. I can record and be free in my recording. Jesus has set me free from so much that has tied me down when it comes to one of the most important aspects of who I am, one of the most important aspects of my life. Right now, all I want to do is try to help people, and I really almost don't care what it looks like. I just want to help people in the ways that I was helped. I want to get them thinking about things the way that the authors I've read in the past got me thinking about things, got me thinking about life, got me thinking about right and wrong, got me thinking about how we can really change the world, got me thinking about who I am, what I want, helped me to confront my childhood and my pain, and help me to build a life that I enjoy today. There are so many in my past to help me get there, and they weren't all pushing me into intellectual corner. They weren't all perfectly rational debaters. I don't know. They weren't all overwhelming intellectuals who just awed me with their rhetorical clarity. They were just fellow human beings searching for meaning, searching for goodness, searching for truth, searching for beauty, and trying to figure out how to live it, trying to figure out how to transform themselves and transform the people around them. And that's all I really want to do. That's all I really, really want to do.